Good morning everybody and welcome back to Green Island. It's been a while since we've posted a video and that's because we've been so busy, particularly this summer in the garden, desperately trying to water and keep things alive. We're in one of the driest parts of the country and it's been a real challenge. As a result, there's been lots of plants that will have died and we'll probably not know the full extent of what we've lost until next summer. But this has prompted me to share with you a plant today that I think has done particularly well. Before we do that, I just wanted to share with you our lovely Davidia tree. We've posted about this before in April when it's in full bloom, but this summer with the dreadful drought and the heat, in August we thought we were losing it. It lost about 3/4 of its leaves, they all turned yellow and fell, and we thought, oh dear, and we watered it frantically. But we've been blessed with a second blooming of flowers, which is a sign that the tree is in stress, but it is incredibly unusual to see a Davidia tree, handkerchief tree, covered in these beautiful flowers. Well, actually the white bract flower looking like things are bracts, but hence why it gets the name handkerchief tree. So that's Davidia involucrata. So today I'm looking at Cotinus. Although it's not the best time of year to look at them because they're not in full flower and they're not coloured in their autumn glory, fiery colours. But as I said, they have fared really, really well this summer. And that's led me to look into them a little bit more. And if you touch their leaves, they almost have a sort of leathery texture, which I think helps them retain moisture. None of our Cotinus have been watered at all and they haven't drooped or wilted. So going forwards, I think they're going to be good plants to replant in the inevitable spaces we're going to have. There's two species of Cotinus. We've got Cotinus coggygria, which is European and found in Asia, and then the American Cotinus, Cotinus obovatus. The most common ones that are grown in England and Great Britain are Cotinus coggygria and their subspecies. Cotinus coggygria actually has green leaves, and this is the subspecies atropurpurea, which has purple leaves, which I think makes a much better foil and much better block of colour in the garden. This is a very old specimen. It was here in the garden when we moved here, and we've really done very little to it because it was literally the only plant that we saved from the original planting. Consequently, it is quite old and it does have some dead wood in it. But it does reward us with beautiful plumes of pink flowers, fluffy cloud-like, actually the seed heads that follow the flowers in the summer. And then in the autumn, it goes absolutely stunning orange and red colours. So really, really beautiful shrub. As I said, this one we've done nothing to it, but the one I'm going to show you next, we coppice down every year, and that gives a very different effect. So this Cotinus is actually a hybrid of obovatus and coggygria, and it's given rise to a hybrid called royal purple, which is a particularly lovely plant. You can see the leaves on this, a beautiful purpley colour. When they first come in the spring, they're bright, bright red, and then the leaves are edged with this beautiful red margin. Looks like it's almost been painted on. But the interesting thing about this one is the fact that we prune it down every year right to a low base. You can see right in the middle here of where it was cut back. These are all last year's stems. And all these shoots here up to the height of about 2 meters are literally all this year's growth. So you can see by how by cutting it down like this, coppicing it back, it promotes it to produce much more vigorous growth. This is just a branch from straight Cotinus coggygria, and you can see the difference in the size of leaves quite plainly. Here, it's incredible. So this is another Cotinus cultivar, across a hybrid between obovatus and coggygria. This one is called Cotinus grace. It's a very popular one, easy to find, and rightly so. Very vigorous growth it has, but it can tend to get a little bit lax if it's left to its own devices. So again, we prune this one back every year, and you can see the enormous sized leaves compared to straight coggygria that we get. It has amazing autumn coloured foliage as well. And the other good thing about the autumn foliage on Cotinus is that they come relatively late in the autumn colour season. So we've had all the acers, the hamamelis, fothergillas, nissas, they all tend to peak in October, whereas the Cotinus hold on to their leaves are much later, and they'll colour right through November and often into the beginning of December. So an excellent plant for extending the season of autumn colour in your garden. As I say, they've got this lovely foliage colour. Grace comes into leaf with a beautiful deep burgundy red shoot, and then the leaves colour for me into what I'd call a sort of glaucous blue. Other places I've seen it where it tends to go a slightly more purple colour, but for me it stays this lovely glaucous blue. The only thing with pruning them back every year like we do with this one is that we do forego the flowers on it. The lovely fluffy seed heads, plumes that the smoke bush gets its name for, we don't get those because we prune it back. That's why I allow the original one to still grow to its full extent, and some of the other varieties. But it's nice if you've got the space to grow them with both different methods. So this one is Cotinus ancot, or Cotinus golden spirit, a yellow-leaved cultivar which is ideal for a dark spot if you've got one, a dark shady spot. With its yellow leaves and pink fluffy seed heads, I don't think it actually looks too good in bright sunlight. It forms a bit of a clash with the seed heads on it. So I would definitely recommend growing this one as a coppiced cultivar and growing it for the stunning dramatic foliage effect. So I've saved my favourite Cotinus for last. This one is Cotinus obovatus. It's the American Cotinus. It tends to grow a bit larger than the Eurasian one, Cotinus coggygria. It has slightly larger leaves, and it often forms a small tree rather than a shrub. My specimen, I would say, has formed a very large shrub, but the first one I ever saw of this was definitely a single stem tree, and it was at Kew Gardens, and I just thought it was the most stunning specimen tree you could have. So I vowed when I had my own garden it would definitely make a good focal point. It, as I said, has slightly larger leaves. Its new growth is absolutely beautiful when it comes in. The delicate markings and the red veins down the leaves and even on the stems of each leaf give it added interest and colour. As with all Cotinus, they have a very distinctive scent. It's very hard to describe it, but if you crush one of the leaves, it's almost like a parsnip. It's quite sweet, but nevertheless very pleasant smell. This is covered in, it has insignificant green flowers in the spring, which are followed by huge fluffy plumes of pink candy floss-like flowers, the seed heads, sorry, which persist for about 6 weeks in the summer. And then following that in the autumn, October time, it will start colouring to orange and bright red. You can see just a few leaves just beginning to colour already. And that's a sign that we've had such a particularly long, dry summer. But as you see, the tree and the leaves have been generally unspoilt by the drought. But as I said, in the autumn, it makes the most stunning focal point with its bright orange and red colours. Another really interesting fact about Cotinuses, which I discovered as a result of planting one in the wrong place. I had a Cotinus grace that outgrew its space, and we tried to move it, but unfortunately it didn't work. But when we cut the wood down, it revealed the most beautiful pattern of rings. You can see how old the tree was. But if you ever have any Cotinus wood going spare, be sure to get it made into something beautiful for your home. Certainly too good to waste. So I could show you several more cultivars. They keep breeding new varieties of Cotinus, and each one has slightly different coloured flowers or slightly different leaves. And I would say that nearly any Cotinus is a good plant worth putting in your garden. If you've got a space where you've lost something in the drought this summer, why not stop at our nursery here in Green Island? We now do mail order as well, and you can see just some of the variety of different types of Cotinus we've got. This is a grace here where you can see the leaves are quite a different colour to our grace, and that's a result of growing it in the pot. And here we've got the golden version, another one called Dusky Maiden, which has a particularly nice coloured foliage. As as I said, I could go on and on with plenty more Cotinus, but definitely a plant to consider putting in your garden to be more drought resistant going forward.